Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. And we always start with the pick of the week, but before we get into that, I gotta give a big shout out to Alex Inkster over at patreon.com/PCP. He's been helping support us for a good long while now. Alex, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. You're helping us get up to our new goals, new cameras, events, stuff like that. Very exciting. Thank you so much for being a general in the PCP Army. You can join Alex in his support over at patreon.com/PCP. Let's get on with it. The pick of the week. This week's pick of the week. Folklords #1 from Boom Studios. So it seems like Boom is really trying to make a strong case for Publisher of the Year, because it seems like every single new release from Boom Studios of the last few months has wound up the first issue being my pick of the week. Folklords is no exception. It's written by Matt Kindt with artwork by Matt Smith and coloring by Chris O'Halloran. I absolutely loved this book. It's really, really cool. It's a fantasy tale, or should I say it's a tale set in a fantasy world. It's about this kid who has these visions of our world, basically, this scientific modern reality that we all occupy, right? This existence, right? So he lives in this, like, this fantasy land, like something that you would see in one of your favorite fantasy books or favorite fantasy TV shows or something like that, right? And he has these visions of our world. So he dresses like we do in our world, and he's more impressed with technology and science, which is completely non-exist. It doesn't even exist in the realm of Folklords, right? And so it's about this kid who feels a little different, feels a little outcast, and it really captures that very well. The concept of the story is really, really cool. The way it all plays out together. I don't want to really give any spoilers about this book, but it's really, really good. I've been really digging Matt Kindt's work for a while. Fellow member of the Excitable PCP crew, Brian Weaver, huge fan of Matt Kindt, so I got to give a shout out to Matt Kindt on behalf of Brian Weaver. But Folklords #1 continues this Boom 2019 tradition of first issues with great concepts, amazing artwork, flamboyant coloring, a great sense of pace, just excellent composition. The lettering, Jim Campbell, I believe, is the letterer here. Yes, Jim Campbell, who letters Wasted Space, for instance. A great letterer, rounds out this fantastic creative team. Matt Kindt, Matt Smith, Chris O'Halloran. Chris O'Halloran you'll know as the colorist from books like Ice Cream Man and Generation Gone, right? Two of my favorite comic books of the last several years. Folklords #1 is absolutely fantastic. If you liked Once and Future, if you like Something is Killing the Children, if you like taking these chances, Strange Skies over East Berlin, Folklords is an absolutely fantastic debut comic book from Boom Studios that merges the idea of what story is and what it means with, you know, this idea of, like, the concept, like I talked about. It's a fantasy land, and this kid dreams about our scientific, technological world. Really interesting stuff. Very exciting to see where this book is going to go. Folklords #1 out from Boom Studios this week. Another fantastic comic book out this week, debuting from Vault Comics, is Black Stars Above #1. If you like H.P. Lovecraft, if you like cosmic horror, you definitely want to check out this book. It's written by Lonnie Nadler with artwork by Jenna Chaw, Brad Simpson on the coloring, and Hassan Otsman El How on the lettering. A fantastic creative team doing a fantastic job. This book is great. It's subtle. It's historical. It's basically, it's about this woman who is the daughter of this fur trapping family up in Canada, like in the 1800s. It's got cosmic horror via H.P. Lovecraft involved in a very subtle way. The book is really, really good. I did an advanced review of this one last week, so definitely check that out to get a little bit more information about this book. Black Stars Above, from #1 from Vault Comics, a great secondary pick of the week. Black Stars Above #1 also has this really cool Vault vintage Frank Miller homage to the first cover of Whiteout #1, you know, the Greg Rucka book. If you've never read Whiteout, by the way, you definitely should. I'll throw a handy link down below to Whiteout if you've never read it. Greg Rucka, Steve Lieber. It's absolutely fantastic. Definitely check it out. Anyway, Black Stars Above, #1, has my approval. Let's jump over to Image Comics real quick. Family Tree, #1, a new one debuting from Image Comics. It definitely has my seal of approval. It's written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Phil Hester, rounding out that team, Orion Cody and Eric Gapstur. I absolutely loved this book. It's basically about this little girl who... so it's a family drama set in, like, what, 1997 or something like that. So I really like the period piece aspect of it. I love it when things visit back to the 90s. Of course, the 90s is when I was in high school, right? So, like, I don't know, I really like that. It's like we're nostalgic now of the 90s. And that's very appropriate for me. Anyway, Jeff Lemire, Phil Hester, and company do a great job with this one. It's about this girl and this family who all of a sudden starts growing tree parts, right? She starts growing like a branch or whatever. It's interesting. It's weird. It's not like Farmhand. It's not like Sweet Tooth, but it definitely kind of captures that same tone and vein. Jeff Lemire's great at this bittersweet melancholy type thing that he does. It's a tone that really comes across. Phil Hester's artwork is absolutely fantastic, especially rounded out with the rest of the creative team on colors and lettering and all that stuff. Family Tree #1 is an exceptional comic book. Seriously, these are my 3 absolute most recommended comics of the week. Family Tree, Black Stars Above, and Folklords. I would put Folklords at #1, then Black Stars Above, then Family Tree. But those books are awesome. We have even more to get into, including Gideon Falls #18. Speaking of Image Comics and Jeff Lemire, Andrea Sorrentino, Dave Stewart have been doing such a fantastic job with Gideon Falls from the very first issue. This book has been mysterious. It's urban horror. It's multiversal horror. The artwork is chilling. This literally has the best jump scares of a comic book ever. In fact, I would say it has, like, almost some of the only jump scares ever in a comic. I mean, you turn a page and you're like, whoa, you, like, jump back. You know, it's not quite the same feel from a movie or something like that, but it's very atmospheric, very creepy, and it's got a big scope to it. Gideon Falls' scope is way grander than we ever thought it was going to be. Issue #18 is a big explainy issue. Everything gets really kind of wrapped up and put together in a tidy bow. It makes a lot of sense now, the story, and it feels like we're heading into, like, the second half of the second act, into the third act. I don't know. I'm loving Gideon Falls so much. Lemire, Sorrentino, Stewart, atmospheric, creepy, mysterious, answering questions, more questions proposed. It's been such a fun ride. Gideon Falls, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. Whenever there is a Gideon Falls on a new comic book day, it's an exceptional new comic book day. And it just happens to be that way. Not just because Gideon Falls is exceptional, which it is, but usually it just seems to coincide with a fantastic fantastic debuts like Family Tree, Folklords, and Black Stars Above. Let's continue on with Image real quick. Sea of Stars #5 is here. I've been loving this book. Dennis Hallam, Jason Aaron, Stephen Green, Rico Renzi. Me and Brian met Rico Renzi at Memphis Comic Con earlier in October. I met him very briefly in Charlotte, but it was so brief. Like, it was just like a signature and gone. But we actually got to chat with him. Anyway, Sea of Stars #5 is absolutely fantastic. This book's been great. It's about this dude and his kid who are strung apart light years across the galaxy, right? It's been a great, fun book. The coloring and the artwork, everything about it is exceptional. The characterization, the way it flows. We get to a point in this issue that I thought we were actually kind of far a ways of. But anyway, Sea of Stars continues to be imaginative, beautiful, and an elegant method of telling a very guttural, instinctive story about a father and a son lost in a vast chaotic wilderness that is the cosmos, right? Tree, 3 Fates, issue #3. Warren Ellis and Jason Howard. This issue kind of confused me. I don't know if I don't quite make the connection of what happened to issue #1 and 2, because honestly, if I think about it, I can't really remember at this point. But I read this book and I was like, I like it. I like the artwork. I like the flow of the story. I like the dialogue. I like everything. I'm really lost, really confused. I don't know if I need to do a reread of Trees, 3 Fates 1 and 2 and 3 real quick, or if it's just like really just out of nowhere this issue. Anyway, a cool issue, but really to me kind of threw me for a loop. It kind of really lost me. The story itself didn't lose me, but I lost its place in the story. I don't know. Let's jump over to DC. DC Black Label has a new release this week. It's from Hill House Comics. That's right, Joe Hill's curated line of comics over at DC Black Label. The Dollhouse Family #1 is here. Mike Carey on the writing, Peter Gross, Vince Locke, and Chris Peter round out the creative team. This book was awesome. I really like this one. Basketful of Heads, which was written by Joe Hill, to me was okay. It just didn't quite super grab me, but I'm really intrigued with more because I've read the solicitation, so I know more about what's coming. Dollhouse Family was great, and it seems like what Joe Hill and Hill House Comics is doing is that they're making horror comics in the vein of like old school horror comics, meaning like like stuff from like the 60s and the 70s. It definitely has that feel to it. The artwork feels classic. It's very detailed. It's got great texture to it. I really like the artwork of this book. The writing is really solid. It's very dense. It's very much paced out very appropriately. The horror is very faint, very subtle, but very creeping, right? And I really like it. The Dollhouse Family so far, I liked it better than Basketful of Heads, and I did like Basketful of Heads, but the Dollhouse Family #1 was a great first issue of a really cool classic feeling horror story, and I liked it so much. Everything, all my expectations, all my unexpectations, all of that was fulfilled with Dollhouse Family #1 from not from Basket Case Comics, Hill House Comics. Someone should do a line, Basket Case Comics. Let's do it. What? Why not? DC Young Animal releases Far Sector #1 out this week. This one's written by N.K. Jemisin, who apparently she is a huge time sci-fi fantasy writer because they did this trilogy. Seriously, and all 3 books won a Hugo Award. I haven't even 5th season, Obelisk Gate and the Stone Sky. That's crazy. Never read that. First work of hers that I've read. Far Sector #1, really loved it. Jamal Campbell on the artwork, by the way. The artist of Naomi. So the artwork is fantastic, but the story is great. It's about a Green Lantern in a very far sector. Right? So first of all, it's cool to get into another Green Lantern story aside from an Earth-based Green Lantern. Though, of course, the Lantern herself is a little Earth-based, but that's a mystery that's going to be unveiled. Anyway, great artwork. Is dynamic. If you love the artwork in Naomi, you'll love the artwork in this. Jemisin has really created a great tale. It's very much science fiction, but it's almost science fiction told as a fantasy tale. There's a lot of world building. There's a lot of interesting concepts. It's very imaginative and innovative when it needs to, and other cool words that make sense like that. But Far Sector #1 from DC Young Animal, this is great. First appearance of a new character right here. Everybody's always on me. He's like, you never mention first appearances. It's because every other comic book has a first appearance. This one could be significant. There is some rumors out there stating that in 5G DC, this is going to be the Earth-based Lantern, the new Green Lantern. So if you want to speculate, maybe pick this one up. But if you are speculating on that book, I would encourage you to read it because it's so good. It's fantastic. Other books from DC. Tales of the Dark Multiverse, Blackest Night #1. They're basically DC versions of What Ifs. Really dark tales about big events that could have gone another way. In this one, it's basically what if Blackest Night. What if the heroes lost in Blackest Night? That's basically what this is. What if they lost because of Sinestro's arrogance, because of Sinestro's greed, right? The book itself is okay. I don't think it's as good as the Nightfall or the Death of Superman ones that came right before. It's written by Tim Seeley. The artwork by Kyle Hotz, though, is absolutely so much worth it. A lot of Lobo in here, so if you're a Lobo fan, you definitely want to check it out. But it's okay. It's all right. It's interesting. It's a dark, twisted take on how Blackest Night could have wound up. But to me, it just wasn't super interesting, but it was still decent. It's not a bad comic. To me, it wasn't as good as the Death of Superman or the Nightfall ones. I thought those were awesome. The Batman's Grave. #2 is out this week. Written by Warren Ellis with artwork by Brian Hitch. Coloring by is it Alex Sinclair. Let's figure it out. Let's get to the appropriate page. Seems like, yes, Alex Sinclair. I already knew that. Richard Starking's on the lettering. Anyway, The Batman's Grave #2 is a really high-octane, energetic, action-filled second issue to this story. The first issue was really cool. I really like Warren Ellis. Warren Ellis is one of my favorite writers, so we already know that, right? Brian Hitch is really back at the top of his game since he's been on Hawkman, and then he jumped over to Batman's Grave. I'm really excited for what James Tynion's going to do, but it almost questions, like, why did you not just have this be, the Batman book after Tom King leaves at 85 or whatever? Like, this would have been fine. This would have been great. It's a nice detective story. This one's got a lot of action to it. The whole first half of this issue is nothing but action, But it's like the Warren Ellis, first of all, does action. He writes it and paces it out in a script like nobody else. Brian Hitch is conveying that action like the Brian Hitch of like 1998, 1999, 2000, 2001. Do you get what I'm saying? This is like back at his prime Brian Hitch. It's not quite as graceful or as subtle, but it's still very effective, and I really, really like it. The Batman's Grave #2 really takes some of the ideas from the first issue, and this one just has a lot more fun with them, right? This is much more of a fun, action-oriented Batman story with some really nice wordplay at the end, and nice character dynamic between Alfred and Batman. It's one thing about this Batman, and Warren Ellis never done a solo Batman book, right? He understands the dynamic between Alfred and Bruce, and it works so well. In Batman's Grave, #2, other Batman books out this week. Detective Comics 1015 with the acetate cover. There you have it right there. Mrs. Freeze is here, Mr. and Mrs. Freeze. An interesting chapter of the story. Peter Tomasi's been doing a decent job at Detective Comics right now. To me, they're not some of the best Batman comics of recent memory. They're interesting. This was a really cool idea to me, first of all, that Victor is going to resurrect Nora now, and she's going to become a villain alongside him. But the turn in this is a little too obvious, a little too cliched, a little too contrite for me. Peter Tomasi's doing a decent job, but to me, Detective Comics, it seems like a decent support Batman book, but it doesn't feel like it wants to be the main Batman book. It seems like at the beginning of each story it wants to be, but then it just kind of peters out a little bit. Not saying that I didn't like it. I love this issue. I thought it was really cool, but it's not top-notch level. It's interesting, but this whole story got a little too easily contrived. I don't know. We'll see what happens, though, right? We'll see what happens. Batman and the Outsiders #7 with an acetate cover written by Brian Hill with a guest artist, who is it? It's Cian Torme. Anyway, this issue is okay. This book's starting to lose me just a little bit. I'm kind of losing my place in the book, losing the character's place and the gist of the flow of the story. It's good. It's Brian Hill. Brian Hill knows dialogue. He knows pacing. He knows how to infuse a scene with deeper meaning, however like thinly veiled it could be. But this is a good issue. But this at this point it's deserving a reread. So this is a book 7 issues in that I need to do a reread in order to start fully appreciating this book again. So it's one of those ones that maybe is a definite trade waiter. But if you trade weight this book, if everybody trade weights this book, it's going to get canceled. Anyway, it's a decent book, but it's just not out. It's just not rising above the competition out there. Flash #82 is here, another acetate cover, and there are others as well. There's that one right there. It's pretty neat, I guess. Whatever. So the Rogues have risen, and that's really, really cool. One of my favorite aspects of the Year of the Villain tie-ins is what's going on with the Rogues. What are they doing? The Rogues in Flash are some of the absolute best villains over at DC. This is interesting. This is a big, widen scope story. It kind of jumps in the middle of it. It's going to explain a lot more of it later. But Joshua Williamson, one word to describe his run on Flash since 2016, consistent, consistently good, consistently bearable and doable. This is an above bearable book. It's really good. I really liked issue #82. I thought this was a great start of a new story. I'm really intrigued at what's exactly going on in this new spotlight on the Rogues and their new powers they have because of Lex Luthor's gifts in Year of the Villain. Let's get to some of the Bendis stuff. Yeah, Event Leviathan #6 is here. This is the final issue of Event Leviathan. I will let you know 100%. They reveal who Leviathan is in this issue. No tricks, no secrets. There it is, right there. The story doesn't definitively end. It's just an opening salvo. Once again, it seems like Brian Michael Bendis sometimes, in half of his work, is only ever writing introductions to stories, and it just keeps happening. And all of a sudden, you go, oh, it's over? I gotta go reread that and catch the nuance, I guess. I don't know. Like all the other issues of Event Leviathan, great artwork, a bunch of people talking, one action scene. Ultimately, I don't care. It's not high stakes. It should be high stakes, but it doesn't feel high stakes. The revelation of who Leviathan is, I think most people won't care whatsoever. I think this is ultimately very disappointing, and the saddest thing about this book is that this is just the start of something more. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. If you disagree, let me know. If you agree, let me know. Superman #17. Bendis has been really wearing thin on me on Superman lately. You know, we got the news that Superman's going to reveal his identity. Seems like that story is starting here in issue #17. So if you're trying to catch up with that story, get on that. Get on board here. I do not trust Bendis' vision right now for Superman. I don't. I'm kind of almost completely checked out. He works with some of the greatest artists out there. Kevin McGuire's on the artwork. It's great. It's great. It's very expressionistic. It's, you know, expressive, I should say, not expressionistic. It's expressive, right? I'm not liking it. I'm not liking Bendis' Superman. I'm not liking his direction. I really was giving him all my faith in the beginning there, and I feel like it's been letting me down. But, you know, I plan on doing a reread soon, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, also from DC Young Animal this week, Collapser number 5, books leading to a natural conclusion. It started off with a really interesting idea that Nugget's still there, but it kind of gets just kind of thrown around with a bunch of like filler. I don't know. Collapser's been fun. It's been neat. Mikey Way, that's really, really cool, but I'm more excited about MCR doing their reunion. Hope they do more shows than just the LA show and the Australian shows and the New Zealand shows, and they do more. I've never seen My Chemical Romance. I didn't even become a My Chemical Romance fan until after they broke up, honestly, because I became a My Chemical Romance fan because of Grant Morrison. And then I read True Lives, and then I got into Hesitant Alien and Danger Days and all that. Anyway, this has nothing to do with MCR, but Mikey Way, the bassist, of course, Gerard's brother, is the co-writer of Collapser. It's an interesting book. It's fun. If you like DC Young Animal, definitely check it out. If you're an MCR fan, definitely check it out. It's got some interesting ideas. Some cool nuggets there, right? It's all right. Let's jump over to Marvel. You know, Dawn of X is happening. You know what that is? Fallen Angels number 1 is the final first issue of Dawn of X Phase 1. That means there's Phase 2 coming. We already know we got Wolverine. We already know we got X-Corp. We already know we got a Moira X book. We already know Vita Ayala's on one of those or on something else. There's going to be an X-Factor book, right? It's going to happen. Anyway, Fallen Angels number 1 is here. This one's really good. It's written by Brian Hill. It's got artwork by Simon Kudronsky, which the art in here is very much different than his art on Punisher, because he just wrapped up a run on Punisher with Matthew Rosenberg. The art here is different. It's a different style. It's more appropriate to this story. It's really interesting. So this focuses on Quanon, Psylocke, basically, right? So Psylocke, Betsy Braddock, is a British lady, right? And she took over the body of an Asian lady, right? And that lasted for years and years and years, and they finally undid that, right? So now Betsy is no longer going by Psylocke, and Quanon is going by Psylocke. Whatever, right? So it's interesting. I like the way Brian Hill approaches this story. He does a great job on this. If you like Brian Hill's work, I think you'll love this book. It definitely feels more like Brian Hill stuff than, say, Batman and the Outsiders. Like, that's a great book, but this is totally Brian Hillian, if that's a correct term. The artwork's great. I really like the story. It's X-23, it's Kid Cable, and it's Psylocke. They're kind of outcast in the society of Krakoa. And they have their own mission that they're doing that's completely underground and nobody knows about it. And it's heavier. It's more heavily tied into the overall Krakoan story than one would be led to believe by just the concept of the story. It's not just like a solo book focusing on these 3 characters doing a solo mission that doesn't really impact the larger story. This is definitely going to be tied in to the main gist. I think all of these books are, actually. Now, just think about it. Lots of mystery, lots of revelations, actually, in Fallen Angels number 1. I liked this book a lot. I thought it was super, super cool. One of the stronger Dawn of X number 1s, and I think we've had a lot of strong ones. By the way, if you missed X-Force number 1 last week, spoilers, that's right. X-Force number 1 is essential. And what happened to X-Force number 1, it ain't permanent. We know that. It's just going to be whatever it is. But if you didn't read X-Force number 1, you're going to have a lot of spoilage in these 2 issues. So X-Men number 2 is here, written by Jonathan Hickman. Lionel Francis Yu on the artwork there. It's a great book. Once again, Jonathan Hickman is committed to focusing in on Scott Summers, Cyclops, and his family. And that's what this book is. This book is basically the field trip of the dad with his kid. So it's Cyclops and Rachel and Kid Cable, right? Nathan, Kid Cable, right? I love Kid Cable. It sounds like it should be a TV show from back in the day, like Kid Video, right? Anyway, X-Men number 2 is really cool. It really gets into some character work. Even though the character work it still seems very Stepford Wives. It really does. It feels like the X-Men are not quite acting like themselves. By the way, if you're wondering about the Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey bedroom situation, I think there's a little hint in a line of dialogue in issue number 2 of X-Men. But I did like it. But what's really interesting is that Jonathan Hickman, as he usually does, this seems like just a one-and-done story, doesn't really going to have too much of an impact on the overall Krakoan X-Men Odyssey or whatever. But Hickmanites, we know, us Hicksters, we know that when you read this book, and especially in the last third of this book, you're like, Hickman's setting up something big. X-Men number 2. There you go. Morbius, the Living Vampire, issue number 1, written by Vita Ayala. I'm a big fan of their work, so I was very excited. I met them in Memphis at Memphis Comic Expo in October. They were super excited about this book. They were I was so excited for them, and definitely wanted to check this out. This book is horrific. It's great. Vita, they definitely lean into the idea of Morbius as a horror comic book, as a Marvel horror comic book, right? A great job with the character work, a great job with the study of the character. It all makes sense. They've done a great job. The artwork by Marcelo Ferreira and Roberto Poggi, fantastic. I really liked it. It really hits in that very 70s Marvel horror type way. I was confused that Morbius is actually like ripping people up and not just sucking blood through these like little sucker things in his hand. That's from the animated series. Spider-Man, the animated series. Yeah, I know. Anyway, that's on Disney Plus, right? Are you on Disney Plus? What are you watching? Let me know in the comments down below. Morbius, the Living Vampire, number 1 was really solid. I think this series is going to be short-lived. Just Morbius doesn't have long runs at Marvel Comics, but I do think that Vita's run, I think it's going to be one of the most substantial runs of Morbius out there because this book was great. It was a great job. It dealt with philosophy, Aristotelian philosophy. There's a right word for that, and I don't know it. Anyway, Morbius the Living Vampire, number 1. I absolutely loved it. Punisher Soviet, number 1. We're running long, are we not? Punisher Soviet, number 1 is out this week. The start of a new miniseries by Punisher, about Punisher, from Max Comics. It's written by, that's right, Garth Ennis and Jason Burrows on the artwork. Whenever Garth Ennis does a Punisher book, you definitely need to check it out. This is a great, fantastic Punisher book. If you like Garth Ennis' Punisher work, no reason why you won't like this one. It's very gritty, it's very violent, it's very explosive, not as tongue-in-cheek as some of the Garth Ennis Punisher stuff is. This is a bit more serious, a little bit more like his Max run, right? Anyway, Punisher Soviet's absolutely fantastic. If you've been really delving for a gritty, R-rated, just kill-em-all Punisher book with some interesting intrigue, good alliteration, Robbie. Punisher Soviet number 1 is out this week for you. Guardians of the Galaxy number 11. This is Donny Cates' penultimate issue of Guardians of the Galaxy. They say that in the next issue, it all comes to a head. Everything from Thanos and Cosmic Ghost Rider and Silver Surfer Black's all coming to a head in next issue. I don't think so. I still think it's all just kind of disconnected, maybe slightly connected with the Venom Null thread or something. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy to me overall, approaching the 11th issue, the 11th hour, one would say. Donny Cates' run on Guardians of the Galaxy, to me, has been slightly disappointing. Slightly. It's been a fun book. It's been decent. But it hasn't been as good as I've expected it to be. But I'm very excited for his Thor work. And I hope it doesn't make Venom suffer. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy number 11 is out this week. And they're not going to kill Rocket, right? They're not going to kill Rocket. They're not going to do that. If they did, it's only for a little bit. Future Foundation is here with issue number 4, the penultimate issue of this. Jeremy Whitley doing a great job, along with the rest of the creative team. Future Foundation's a fun cast of characters. If you're a fan of Power Pack, you definitely want to check this out. There's only one more issue of the series left. We didn't think it was going to last long, but Jeremy Whitley's done the best with what he's had, with the time that he's had. Bentley is amazingly a fantastic job with Bentley 23 in this issue. Future Foundation number 4 out this week. History of the Marvel Universe number 5 here. Hits the 2000s, is that right? This covers a bunch of those big events like Civil War, Secret Invasion, Siege, House of M, all that kind of stuff. History of the Marvel Universe has been great. If you're not familiar with the history of the Marvel Universe, excuse me, if you're like a new fan or something, or you just want to know more about the history, check out this book. It's so good. The highlight of this book is Javier Rodriguez and Alvaro Lopez on the artwork. The composition, the layouts, everything about this book is so top-notch. It's great. This book is just a big info dump. That's all History of the Marvel Universe is. It's all stuff that we already know, right? It really is. It's all already stuff that we already know, but it's told in a very flamboyant, masterful way. Fantastic job. Speaking of Marvel Comics and masterful, Tomb of Dracula number 10 has a facsimile edition out this week, and that means I finally get to own the first appearance of Blade. That's right. This is the first appearance of Blade. If you've never read it, definitely check this out, and I hope this encourages you to read more Tomb of Dracula stuff. The Marv Wolfman, Gene Colan Tomb of Dracula stuff is absolutely fantastic and amazing. It's where Blade comes from. I love Blade, and if you like this channel and you like the whole Blade stuff that I'm always talking about on the live streams, definitely pick up the Tomb of Dracula Facsimile Edition. Let's jump over to Aftershock and some of the smaller press. Midnight Vista #3 is here, written by Elliot Rahal with artwork by Clara Meath. I absolutely love this book. It's a very personal tale that Elliot Rahal is telling about a cat, not a cat, because that's strayed, kind of. Anyway, it's about a dude who, him and his stepfather got abducted by aliens, right? And then all of a sudden he shows back up years later. So you got the men in black, and what are they? Lots of interesting ideas, conspiracy theories, all that kind of stuff. I'm very interested in abduction stories. I'm very interested in conspiracy theories. I'm very interested in contact with extraterrestrial intelligences. We talked about that a lot while I was wearing the Teen Dog shades on this last week's Rockin Robbie live. So definitely check that out if you want to get a little bit more out there with us. But anyway, Midnight Vista #3. If you like that out there stuff, pick up Midnight Vista. Elliot Rahal is a fantastic writer, whether he's doing science fiction, whether he's doing satire, or whether he's doing crime. He is such a fantastic writer, and I love that book. Dr. Mirage #4 is out this week from Valiant Comics. Magdalene Visaggio, she is one of my absolute favorite writers right now. This is a great book, an existential book. Like, the best Visaggio work is existential. It's all about purpose, life, meaning, death, decay, rebirth. Meaning, purpose. That's the most important thing. But then we really got to add in Nick Robles and Jordi Belair on the artwork here. This book, let me find you. This book has got, oh my goodness, great colors, great artwork, great composition. This book is, seriously, this is one of the sleeper hits of the year. Do not sleep on Dr. Mirage. That book is fantastic. From Dark Horse Comics, we have Black Hammer Justice League #5, the final issue of the series by Jeff Lemire and artist Michael Walsh. It's all right. It's a great ending. It's the ending that we were going to get. We already knew from the very beginning this was kind of like a throwaway story. It was going to have a big impact on either the Justice League or Black Hammer. Who are we fooling, right? But it's a nice, fun story. It's nice to see Jeff Lemire get back to the core Justice League characters, because when he wrote Justice League, he didn't really have access to those characters. So it's cool to see him with his slight version of these books, of these characters, along with the characters of his own book, and kind of taking that Lemurian tone. Lemurian means something different. Lemurian. Taking that tone and merging it a little bit with the DC Universe. Something he didn't get to do when he was at the DC Universe, right? Anyway, Buffy Angel Hellmouth #2 is here. The Buffy stuff's losing me. I'm a huge Buffy Angel fan of the TV shows and all that stuff. I'm very excited about what Brian Hill's doing with Angel. Feels like Jordi Belair's just doing a little too much too soon, too much too fast with Buffy. What are they building up to here? I'm starting to get the idea that they're building up to Angelus already. It seems like they're rushing things. I don't know. This is one of those books, like Batman and the Outsiders. Right now, it's deserving a reread because it's losing me. It's losing me in the story. Ghosted in LA #5 from Boombox. Boom had the pick of the week, and here we are talking about other Boom titles. Boom is not just one of the publishers of the year, along with Vault, I would say, because of like their licensed properties, like Buffy and Power Rangers, is great. Then they got interesting new work. Like, everybody's been talking about Once and Future and Something is Killing the Children. Ghosted in LA. This book is amazing. This is one of the best books of the year as well. This book is great. Sina Grace, Siobhan Keenan, and Kathy Lee. This book's been great. It's about this woman who goes to college over across country in LA. Her boyfriend, she goes there to be with her boyfriend. He breaks up with her, but then you find out there's a deeper meaning behind that. It's because he's actually been questioning his sexuality this whole time. He still doesn't know who he is, and he's trying to figure that out. But then she winds up in this hotel in LA that's haunted by all these different ghosts. And so she befriends these ghosts. And this book has been so great. It's got great character work. It's got great drama. It's got excellent composition with the artwork. The artwork is clean and precise, animated type feeling, but not, it's still realistic, if that makes sense. Siobhan Keenan does a great job there. Ghost in LA has been one of those, just like Dr. Mirage, one of those books not a lot of people are talking about, but one of the best books on the shelves right now. Issue number 5 from Boom out this week. And Go-Go Power Rangers number 25. Cena Grace, Ryan Parrott. They're doing such a great job now telling an untold, unexplained portion of Power Rangers mythology. Why did Jason, Trini, and Zach leave the Power Rangers? How did Tommy become the White Ranger? That's the story that's being told right now in Go-Go Power Rangers, and it's also being foretold or beyond told in Mighty Morphin. Like, seriously, this book has really turned a corner since the end of Shattered Grid. Shattered Grid was fun. It went on a little too long. Beyond the Grid was kind of stagnant for me and uninteresting. But Go-Go Power Rangers and Mighty Morphin now have got such a great direction, especially for old school Power Ranger fans. I know that someone commented on the videos recently about Power Ranger books. They were like, how do I explain the origin? The origin of the Power Rangers is this. Zordon, Rita awakened. Zordon needed to find 5 teenagers with attitude. Alpha punched in some things on the computer. They found those 5 Power Rangers. There's really nothing more than that. This book has added so much mythology, so much lore, so much deeper meaning and nuance to the Power Rangers story than the TV show ever got us. So if you really want to know the origin of the Power Rangers, just jump on Netflix if you have it, or do whatever you got to do and watch just the first episode, Day of the Dumpster from Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You'll check it out. Final book we'll talk about is RV9 number 1 from Mad Cave Studios. Mad Cave Studios is definitely a publisher on the rise that you definitely need to pay attention to. They got a book coming out in December called Over the Ropes. I highly encourage you to check out. It's going to be a sleeper hit, I guarantee you. I know Jay. We did an interview with Jay. Fantastic guy. He's the writer of that book. It's fantastic. Show's End is a book right now from Mad Cave Studios that is one of my favorite books currently. I'm loving that. RV9 is a new one. Number 1, it was okay. Me personally, this book didn't resonate with me. It's about this like assassin, old order society. I don't know. It just didn't really resonate with me. It felt a little cliche at times. It just didn't do much for me. But I'm saying all that to say, Mad Cave is a studio not to sleep on right now. Woven Heart just came out. That's becoming big, sold out, second printing coming. So check out Mad Cave and what they're doing. Anyway, that's what I read this week. That's what I thought about it. Let me know what you're reading and what you think about it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video, and please do check us out at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading, y'all. Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly Pop Culture Bum 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 bum.